The recent discovery of minerals in Uganda and government support for foreign direct investment has increased speculation on land.
These investments have contributed to negative consequences, for example, destruction of the environment, land conflicts, and violations of human rights.
We come from a background that we appreciate investments have to take place, and not all investments are bad, but we are saying, how are these investments being implemented? How do they, well, for example, if investments require land, how do they approach communities or state institutions that are supposed to allocate them land?
While mining has driven growth in the country, significant gaps in land policy and practice have been created.
As a response to that, LEMU designed a project which is called Preventive Legal Empowerment in the Face of Land-Based Investments.
The project is looking at improving community relations with investments in the region.
We've conducted community dialogues or community meetings, and we have also conducted workshops, inception workshops in the different districts that we have worked.
The project is looking at how to improve community relations with investments in the regions of Lango, Teso, Acholi, and Karamoja.
LEMU's interventions in Karamoja seek to address issues related to mining in that area and support peaceful, transparent, and mutually beneficial mineral extractions.
We saw that there is a lot of secrecy, there is limited information. Communities do not know what all these investments are about, or what land is involved, who is going to be affected. But at the same time, we saw the presence of security organs, and this led to intimidation. Communities were not so free. But then you look at a region that is endowed with minerals, but actually showing that they were in a sorry state. The level of poverty so high, but also land rights being abused.
Communities have complained about inappropriate mining processes, ignored mining and land rights, inadequate consultations on access and control of land, breakdowns of social norms due to the mining economy, and disregard of gender norms.
This is one sub-county that is endowed with minerals and majorly the gold. So how the extraction has always been done in this sub-county or this particular place has not been well with us as leadership of Amudat and the communities. There is one investor that is carrying out activities here, which to us it's not legal, because I am told before we came in that they were given a prospecting license, and the prospecting license is overdue. It has expired. They needed to pursue to get the exploration license, so that once they can, then they can go on with their mining activities legally, all of us knowing our responsibilities between them, the investors, the community, and the leadership. It is very absurd that even when mining is taking place in the district is not getting any royalties, even the sub-county. And just like we arrived here, you realize that the people who are the owners of the land have complained on how they are being evicted from their own land. In this particular place that we are, you realize that these are borrow pits. Let me call them borrow pits of individuals. But underground, that is where you get the gold deposits. And they are telling me that there is a kind of a belt underground, just like this stick. So the point of contention is, there is someone who has hired out is a small piece of land where the excavator is. And initially, the investor had been given this particular place, so he has mined gold underground. So he's getting another side, since these particular people have refused with their own plots. They have not given him. So he wants to go then come from underground and pick the gold from underground. So this is where the condition is. People are saying we want to continue getting our own gold, mining our own gold. But since he has equipment, he has the empowerment in terms of the capacity of equipment. So he wants to use the equipment, go underground, pick the gold, while the surface is intact, as you see. So that's why we want to come here to address such kind of conflicts, so that when the local artisans are mining plus the investor, there is need for harmony. Then secondly, we want to know also as a leadership, where is this gold sold? Because when I had a discussion with the mineral inspector, the regional mineral inspector, he told me the reason why we are not getting royalties as a district is because after getting the gold here, wherever they are selling it from, they don't declare that the gold is coming from Amudat. And that means we cannot be mapped as a producing district or sub-county. So not until it is declared, that's when we can be mapped as producing, and then calculations are made to see that percentages of what they are selling comes back to the sub-county, to the owners of the land, and to the district in form of royalties. Yeah. So basically that's why we are here, so that we iron out this conflict. And then of course now my other concern is the environmental degradation. After them using or getting the gold, there is need for them to refill back the borrow pits. Otherwise, the whole of this place is going to be degraded, and at one point you will hear people are drowning here, or maybe even animals.
Communities have been confronted by different types of mining-related conflicts, which are either intercommunal or intracommunal.
Another thing that the communities talked about was the community representatives being targeted by these investors. We realized that most of them were bought off. We realized that most of them ended up receiving money on behalf of the communities, or receiving compensations on behalf of the communities, and these actually never reached the communities. Somehow the money got lost in between there. So this issue of investors choosing to work with a few community representatives, buying them off, also is another source of conflict, and it is something that can negatively affect the legitimacy and credibility of this investment that would otherwise have been good. Now, when it comes to Acholi, we also looked at, or we came to find out that there was an issue of the Valalo, where we see that pastoralists or nomads are coming from a different region of Uganda, and they are heading to this, probably thinking that the land is vast, they can access this land, and that caused confusion. But also we saw that there are big investments still led by local nationals, sons of the soil, but also companies. And the question is, how are they accessing land, and what is at stake? Now, if we look at the region of Teso, for example, we're in Palisa, we saw that the communities are complaining about noise pollution. The communities are complaining about the effects of this investment going beyond what was originally promised. The area that is being affected, we saw that this investor wants to extend boundaries, and in short, we are seeing that even if the project started on a good note, however, along implementation, we see that the investment is deviating from what was agreed on, and that is going to be a source of conflict.
LEMU is going to carry out actions that help the communities improve the situation.
We're looking at actions that will help communities and investors to prevent violations. For example, giving early alert, giving information or awareness raising to communities before even the investments do take place. And for example, facilitating agreements between communities and investors, and making sure that they are signed MOUs, so that we prevent a lot of violations that could take place if there are no such engagements.
This 3-year project is focused on conflict resolution.
So this project is taking on a preventive approach so that we warn communities in advance, we give them knowledge in advance in terms of what is a responsible investment, what kind of investment should they accept, and issues around land acquisition. So when they have all this information in advance, you find that it is easier to prevent a lot of harm from taking place within the community.
We are all in for development and we are all in for investment, but we are calling upon investments being responsible. Because in the end, if we do not engage in responsible investments, we are creating bigger problems. We are creating landlessness.
It's an action research. That means we will be gathering data in terms of how our communities are facing violations, in terms of what kind of investments they are, and then what kind of response do we need to give to support communities to improve access to land and how they benefit from these investments. So the project is action research, and we are in the process of collecting data. The project actually started from February 2022 and will be running up to the end of 2024.
From the time of inception, a lot of underlying factors have challenged the rollout process.
Since some of the cases that we have identified involve the state, for example, you find where the state is the investor or is the one brokering the investment. For example, in the Karamoja region around minerals extraction, or in the Chole region where the government is behind maybe allocating the land for investments in former government ranches, you find that the investments are there's a lot of suspicion, there's a lot of secrecy, and there's a lot of fear within the communities. And in this case, there's fear from the side of the communities, but there's also fear on the side of LEMU and the other actors. So this is so far one of the major challenges to intervening in this kind of case. Meanwhile, for the cases where the investors is really in the private sector, it is easier to work around the violations as opposed to working with investments involving the state.
LEMU seeks to reduce the sources of conflict in the mining area by increasing awareness about them and calling on governments, mining companies and investors to undertake mining in a manner that addresses the concerns highlighted by the communities.
So this partnership, I know, is going to help us to ensure there is equity. There is equality in terms of accessing natural resources, utilizing land, and whichever deposits that God has given us. And once we do this, I know we are going to sensitize the communities to know their rights, to fight for their rights when it comes to land ownership and utilization of whichever natural resource that is there. So I know there is a gap in the district, especially in the natural resource department and land. The government has very little funding now to these offices, and that's why the officers in charge cannot even come out to sensitize the communities. But with the partnership with organizations such as LEMU, I know our communities will be enlightened and they will defend and protect their land.
If everyone plays their role, if everyone is checked, especially the investors, if they are checked, then we are going to contribute to solving conflicts that would rather come up later along the investment.